financial officers that have been sponsoring the Procure to Pay project in the CSU, as we're changing the way that we do things. And I want to thank Tom and, for all his support. And so the campus project team. So I'll introduce everybody else. I'll introduce myself last, but we have Marino Monzano, our project lead and change co-lead, and the director of procurement and distribution services. So everybody know Marina? If you don't, she's right over here. You've probably seen her virtually if you've been on a lot of Zoom meetings. And then we have Tina Livingston. Raise your hand. Tina is our interim, payment services manager, and she's the AP lead. And next to her is my retired annuitant, which is Becky Lappin, and she's been helping with this project since she came back from where was it you were last at? Was it Italy? She's been all over the place. So like my daughter who's over here, they've been all over the world. Don't shake your head at me, daughter. And then we have Felicitas Alvarado. There's Felicitas over there. And she's the lead helping with our supplier part of P2P. And Bianca Woldmuth, who's in the back there helping to guide everything along. So she's our strategic sourcing specialist. And I am Michael Chavez. I'm the change management co-lead. And I just, as you probably saw in the announcement, I'm now the interim associate vice president for business and financial services. So thank you all for being here. And I know you'll hopefully have a lot of questions about this wonderful project. And at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Rise Now and CSU. So we'll go ahead and have Robert. Okay. Okay, we have two.
Yes, I will take over. Thank you, Mike, for the introduction. Thank you all for joining. We have a great turnout today for our end user group for P2P. So this particular roadshow is aimed at our end users, giving you all some background about the project, and then doing a quick demo on what the future state would look like, the new way you buy and pay within the CSU. So before we get started into the demos, we're going to give you a quick introduction of the application and program, introduction on the project itself and where we're at. Then we're going to go into the demo, which I will provide a quick layout of the land in the new application. And then Robert's going to take you through the application and create a requisition for an order. Then I'll talk through some training overview and then the go live timing for CSU Bakersfield. So first, you may have seen this if you've participated in some of the sessions at CSU Bakersfield. I'm going to play it so that way you all get an idea of what P2P means. So let me get that started for you all.
At the California State University, we educate, discover, and inspire every day, and that requires the right tools. But dealing with multiple interfaces, systems, and processes can mean not having what we need when we need it most. Not anymore. Introducing CSUBUY. CSUBUY will expand its functionality to include the Procure to Pay process. Procure to Pay, or P2P, will transform the entire way we purchase goods and services, from requisition to payment and everything in between, allowing our faculty and staff to focus on more engaging and productive activities. We'll be able to sign on, shop our favorite catalogs, and choose from our frequently used account codes all in one place. From just the essentials to the advanced tools crucial to our teaching, research, and support services needs, CSUBUY is the procurement destination for everything. And no more wondering where requests are in the approval process. Requests go directly to the right approvers who can approve anytime, anywhere, and can be tracked in real time. Simple off-catalog requests for goods or services just require completion of an electronic form so we can get what we need fast and get back to what matters most: educating, discovering, and inspiring. CSUBUY is one example of how the CSU is modernizing systems and processes. Learn more at p2p.calstate.edu.
Awesome. So as Mike has shared, this project has been around for quite some time. It started 3 to 4 years ago, back in 2018, 2019, started as a sourcing and contracting tool for our procurement team. Then it was opened up to the end user group, and we created P-Card Marketplace, which you all may have used before. It's it's a version of CSUBUY where you all can access and buy from our contracted suppliers using your P card. And now what we're about to embark on is phase 3, which is the procure to pay process. And as Mike has shared, it is going to be a standardized procurement process that allows for the elimination of manual work and steps, resulting in efficiency through automation, allowing us to mitigate risks, and hopefully driving cost savings for the CSU as a whole. Our objective is to build a platform that integrates disparate data into a single streamlined process, implement an intuitive and easy to use solution, create visibility to our suppliers, including our sustainable suppliers, as well as visibility to your transactions, knowing where it is, who has it, and why. Drive process efficiency through the integrations that we have between the application as well as the ERP, which is CFS. Leverage the automation in the application to reduce manual work, and hopefully increase our ability to comply to policies and regulations and reduce costs for the CSU. I covered some of the benefits on this screen here in the last slide. We'll make sure to get a copy to all of you so you could digest this information as well. But for this particular slide, I want to focus your attention to this third bullet right here. This bullet, with CSUBUY, it will allow us to have better data quality for decision making. So with the reporting capabilities in the application, we will be able to leverage our identity as a CSU and the massiveness of that identity to negotiate pricing with our suppliers and be able to drive that cost down for our end users. So that's a benefit that will result in P2P. Another thing we would like to do is continually improve the application. So what we're implementing in this first round of CSUBUY is just grazing what the application can do. There's opportunities once we get end users in there to better understand how we're using it and why we're using it. We'll be able to enhance the process within the application, which enhances the user experience overall. This is a snapshot of where we're at with this phase of the project. So CSU Bakersfield is one of 9 campuses going first. We're about 65% through the project and are currently in the roadshow and testing work stream. So we've been on the road for a couple weeks now. We're tackling the central campuses, which includes CSU Bakersfield. We have a couple more at the end of the month, a couple more campuses to visit. And then the other thing is working through testing. So right now we have a group of team members testing the integration between CSUBUY and CFS, ensuring that data is being passed back and forth appropriately, and then also preparing for user acceptance testing, or UAT. As a general project update, there's 4 buckets of work that we're highly focused on right now. First are preparing and executing the roadshows. Second is the system integration. So as I mentioned earlier, there are 8 integration between the systems passing data back and forth. We're currently working through the last couple of integration, which is supplier sync and payment status. Third, preparing for user acceptance testing. What that means is we will get your campus team members at Bakersfield in the application to start testing the functionality and the configurations that we've made, and ensuring that we do end-to-end testing so that way the data can flow through as expected to CFS for payment. And lastly, the 4th bucket of work that we're focused on is the supplier cleanup. So amongst the 9 campuses, there are 18,000 suppliers amongst the 9. What we've done is we've done a first analysis of that and have provided with your campus team a list of your suppliers with our recommendation on who should come on board and who should not. The team will now reconcile that list and confirm the suppliers that will be on the initial load for CSUBUY and those that should be removed. The intent behind that work is so that way when we go live with CSUBUY at Bakersfield, we start with very clean data in regards to the supplier list. So now we're going to head over to the demo section of the presentation. But before we do that, I kind of want to throw a disclaimer out there of what we're demoing. So we are in a test site. We do have team members in the application currently finalizing configuration and doing testing. So as we go through the demo, there may be things that pop up that we wouldn't normally expect because of the testing and configuration that's being done as we demo. Additionally, what you see may not be exactly how it looks in the future state. It should just give you a feel for what it could be when you all transition to CSUBUY. And then lastly, the data values that we will show are not real data values. They're made up, but you should be able to see where your particular campus data will be and how that would look like in the future state. So just a few disclaimer as we walk through the demo. So as I shared, we're gonna kind of go through the layout of the land, share some basic navigation within the application, some search functionality, and I'm gonna punt it over to Robert, who's in the conference room, to show the low dollar purchase process. So let me get into the application really quick. All right. So what you see is the landing page of CSUBUY test site. For those who have used P-Card Marketplace, it should look fairly familiar to you all with how it's laid out. I'm going to go through some basic navigation so you can see what's here. First, this top left shopping box right here is where you will be able to search for products that you are looking for from our catalog supplier. So you can look for office supplies, things like that. It should provide you with results. Robert's going to touch on how you can filter your search to really narrow into what it is that you're looking for in a little bit. The next area that I want to show you all are the showcases. So the first showcase are all the forms that will be available in CSUBUY that you are probably familiar with on your campus. These forms were built with the partnership of your campus team members, as well as the supporting admins that will review them in the future state to make them as comprehensive as possible to get the information needed to create the purchase order for what you are looking for. Next are the available suppliers within the application that you can purchase from that has been enabled either via catalog or via punch out. So this is kind of a glimpse of the landing page that you will see when you log in. On the left-hand side over here are the navigation to the various modules within the application. I'm logged in right now, as I mentioned, as Rocky the requester, which is an end user. And so my access to these modules may be limited. However, I will be able to search for various documents within these modules. So as an example, I'm in the accounts payable module here. My list of things I can do in the module is limited since I'm a requester, but if I was an AP processor, this list will be, which would be more comprehensive. The next thing I want to point your attention to is this top right search bar right here. This one differs from the product search in that it is a search for the documents within the application. So when I say documents, I'm talking about requisitions, purchase orders, or vouchers that has been processed within the application. So really quickly, I'm actually going to type in a requisition number. So when I type that in, it pulls up the actual requisition as well as any other documents associated with it. So here in this example, it pulled the requisition itself and then the purchase order that was created from that request. If there was a voucher that was associated with it, it will list it here. The idea behind that is that it should provide you all with easy access to any documents that's connected together. So you can jump around between based on what it is that you're looking for. This is just one area that you can do that. When Robert does his demo, he'll show you where else you can do that as well. The next few things I want to talk through are these little icons on the top. The first one are action items. If you are a financial department approver on your campus or procurement approver individuals, this is where you can see what your workload is like, because it will show all of the documents that are assigned to you for review. So it just gives you a snapshot of what your workload is in that point in time. Additionally, there's a bell icon here that tells you notification for various things. All of our users will have a default of receiving email notification as well as in-app notification. So for example, if you have a requisition that you submitted and it's waiting for approval, you will be able to get either email or in-app notification when it's been approved. So that way you know what's going on with it. The next thing I want to draw your attention to is your profile. So when you log into the application, it will pull over information from CFS. So what it will pull is your contact information here, as well as the roles that you have access to. But what I want to draw your attention to are the defaults. So as end users, you're able to default the chart field string that you use all the time. So if you have a single one, you can default it. So that way, when you actually make your requests and you check out, it will default to that number. So that way you don't always have to key it every single time. Now, if you do it from multiple departments, if you order from multiple departments and use multiple chart field strings, you can add it to your favorites and create something almost like a wallet. So it's a list of all the chart field strings you always use, and you'll be able to toggle in between those chart fields. The same thing applies in regards to your addresses. You will be able to default it. If you actually deliver to multiple places on campus, you can add those to your favorite and toggle in between those as well. The idea behind that is that it helps ease the checkout process, so that way you're not constantly keying the same information. So with that, we're actually going to go through and I'm going to punt it to Robert. He's going to demo creating a requisition, and he's going to do something that we are introducing with P2P, and that is the low dollar purchase order. What that means is an end user can submit a request for a low dollar purchase, so anything less than $5,000, and is low risk, so anything that does not require review for compliance, and is from a catalog supplier, so like Staples. So when they submit that type of transaction, it will route to financial approval first. Then after that, it will bypass procurement and creates a PO. The intent there is that because it's low dollar, a low risk commodity, procurement does not need to review it. It can just be created as a purchase order. On the flip side of that, if the invoice comes in for the same transaction and there is no discrepancy between the invoice and the PO, and it's not for a supplier that requires withholding, it will route for receiving. And then once receiving has been done, it will bypass AP and be paid to the supplier. Again, that is the intent there is that because it's for low risk transaction and there is no mismatch between the PO and the invoice, it will be automatically approved and pushed over to CFS for payment. I did see that Robert stepped away. So looks like we're having permission. Let me
You have
just,
to share.
yep.
She made you the host. So.
Yeah, no problem. I'll do that right now. All right. So I want to talk to you through that conceptually, what that low dollar purchase process is. Robert's now going to actually take you through that visually. So Robert.
All right, thanks too. So if you were here at an earlier session, this is going to be a little bit similar to some of the information we talked about earlier. As two is logged in, I am logged in as Rocky the requester as well. So the same things you were seeing in two's profile, you'll really see with mine as well. So the first area I like to touch on is the shopping section, the shop area. So as two mentioned, you are able to do a simple search for the supplier, product, part number. If you want to search for a specific form, you could do that in this area. There's also the ability to do this advanced search as well, where you can click on and search for different things like by category. So if I wanted to limit it to furniture or something like services, I can do that as well. For this, I'll keep it as everything. I am also able to search for specific words. In this scenario, I'm going to do an order for office supplies. So if I wanted to say blue pens, I could search for those words together, just like in the search bar. I can also search for a specific supplier where I'll see all the different items for that supplier. But if I also start combining things, it'll start to narrow my results. So if I use all these words plus supplier, it'll give me different results. You can also look at part number, manufacturer, if you have a specific manufacturer you prefer. If you know the commodity code, you can search by that and you'll see any products with that commodity code. The other thing is the exact phrase. So you can look for exact phrase. You can use any of these words. You have this exclusion word. So if I'm looking for like pens, I can say pens. I can say pen. And then here I can put in like Bic. And if I search, it's going to give me results for pens that are not with Bic. So if Bic is the manufacturer, it's not going to show those. So with the search for these pens, you could see I'm given more than 4,000 results. That's a ton of products to sift through, try to find the correct ones that you want. A couple of things you can do. You are able to sort these using this best match here on the right side, where you can look through the description, the size. Most people will search pricing low to high. So that is available if you're looking for the lowest priced item. If you didn't want to use anything like that, you are able to use these product flags. So you are able to search for something that's possibly hazardous material. You can look for recycled or a green product. So recycled, if you're looking for paper, if you want recycled post-consumer paper, you can do that here and filter that as results. If you wanted to look for a specific supplier, you can do that. So I can limit this to staples, and you'll see it narrows it down by more than half. So it immediately reduces your results. You can also go through and you can search by category. So with this one, I know I don't want ink refills. So I can say I just want to look at ballpoint pens, and that'll give you further narrowed results. So now we're down to less than 700. And you can continue to do this. I won't go through all of them, but you can do this based on packaging. And as I mentioned, manufacturer. So you can see with this one in my advanced search, I said I wanted to exclude Bic. And so Bic is not showing up in these results for me, but I could select a specific supplier as well. On this list of items here on the right side, anything with a product image, you will see that. If a supplier did not provide that for a hosted catalog, which you'll typically be presented with is either the supplier's logo or just a generic logo as a placeholder. You get from this view just a little bit of information about the item in the description. You can also see the supplier, their part number if you happen to know that, and then you have your pricing. If I needed additional information, I can click directly on the product, and it's going to give me some additional information for that. So you'll get your basic information of like the sizing and the packaging, the unit of measure. You could, if you needed to see like the MSDS, you can pull that down and review that as well. And then you'll get like the lead time, what they say, how long it'll take them to process your order, that kind of information. If there are any product flags, you will see those. So like in this amusing scenario, this pen is a hazardous material. So you'll see those kind of things. We just set this up as an example. So if you wanted to, you could add this as a favorite. What we always say with this one is, if I'm purchasing office supplies constantly or whatever you purchase for your department, you're doing these on a monthly basis, whatever it is, you could set up a favorites list. So next time you need to place that order, you could just go directly to that list, click add all items to cart, and then it will add all those items to cart for you. So you don't have to constantly go in and recreate orders. You also have this option of doing a shared folder where if I needed to share this with my department and say, please add items to this list, we're going to do one order. You can go ahead and create a single list and one person can place that order. So a couple of things in here to speed up your buying process. If I wanted to add these pens and complete this order, I can come in and update my quantity. So I could add 5 to this and I can say add this to my cart. If I was done with my order, I can just click view cart or checkout. For this, I'm going to show one more feature. If you were needing to continue buying, if you were done with pens, you can of course come up here and do a search in the search bar. And if I did something like paper, it will give you some recommendations based on what's in the hosted catalogs and possibly punch outs, where you can add these directly to your cart from this menu as well. Or you can just hit enter and it'll take you to every item listed as paper. Back on the pens, if I was done with my order, I can check out. But again, to speed up my buying process, it keeps me on this page. So if I wanted to add these pens, I can do that and then continue shopping. When I'm ready to check out though, I can come up to this dollar value up here on the upper right-hand corner. That is my shopping cart. It's going to give me my top 5 items in no particular order in my cart. You'll be able to see the items in your cart. If I end up not wanting an item, it's as simple as just clicking the trash can and it will take it out and update my pricing for me. So pretty easy way to clear out things you didn't want. One other feature that I sometimes neglect to mention, you can also save this cart and go create an entirely new cart as well. So you could have multiple carts at once. So it's another feature to save time in the future. For this one, I'm ready to begin my checkout. I'm going to go to my view my cart. And so here, top of the screen, you can see I'm presented with that search again. So if I was like, oh, I needed a stapler, I can add another search to this as well. The cart name, out of the system generates a generic cart name. So I always recommend to people throw in something like office supplies if you're buying office supplies or if it's something else. What that'll do is allow you in the future, if you want to look back at your orders, it'll help you easily identify what you purchased on that date, whether it's office supplies, tools, whatever it could be. 2 is talking about the things that default out of your user profile. So one that she was showing is this deliver to location. So again, this is in Rocky Requester's deliver to location defaults. If you belong to multiple business units and you have multiple deliver to locations, you'll be able to select them from this drop-down list. So if I wanted to add it to the Arts and Humanities building, I can change that to that, and then will be reflected on the purchase order and everything. But for this one, again, whatever's in your profile is going to default to that. So some of the things I can do on this order, just from my view my cart page, I can review the items. So I can see that I have 5 items with Grainger. I can come in here. I can add or reduce my quantity. So I can change that to 3, click enter, and it will save and change it in my cart for me. If I needed to change the commodity code, I can do that. If I have a contract that's tied to this supplier, in this example of Grainger, I can add that. And you can see down here with Staples how that kind of looks. So I can just click in there. I get some high level details of the contract, but I'm also able to click here and select a contract that goes with this. So if there are multiple contracts in that scenario, you can change them to reflect the correct one. So with this one, I'm ready to place my order so I can continue to proceed to checkout. It's very similar to if you're shopping on Amazon, I would say is you're always presented with that view cart, then your checkout. A lot of the information carries over from page to page. This information will again carry over the purchase order when it goes out to the supplier. So you see my default shipping, Rocky's default shipping came in from his user profile. But if he did have multiple ship tos, I can click the pencil and I can change that and say I wanted it to go to this main ship to. I can save that and it will reflect on my, you can see it changed over to the biology department instead. My default location came across. So again, a lot of that stuff's coming over for you. Across the top, you see these different tabs. We have our taxes, shipping and handling, PO preview, and we also have our comments. I always like to point this one out. When you need to leave a comment for an approver or you want to check the status of an order, you can leave a comment in here instead of having to go out and create an email or call them up on the phone. You can say, I noticed this has been on hold for a while. What's the status? They can also respond back to it and give you, we're waiting on, supplier additional information or something like that. So keeps a record of that inside this requisition so you can refer back to later. You wanted to add any attachments. You need to add an internal attachment within the department or anything like that. You can add that there. You wanted to add an external attachment for the supplier, you can do that as well. So allows you to send that communication over without having to generate an email for them. Anything you do on this, you will see reflected in the history. So you notice I changed my shipping address. It immediately reflected that I changed the shipping address as Rocky in this case. So anything that's done, no matter who does it, is going to keep a record of those changes for you. And you can even see the quantity change down here as well. Jumping back to our summary tab. We do have our chart fields. We do have this called as accounting codes right now, but this is the same thing too as mentioning in the user profile where we can set these to default from your user profile. So if I needed to update these, I can come over here to the pencil icon and I can change these to reflect on this order. If I needed to, I can also easily add splits by clicking this plus sign and adding the required amount of splits that I needed to. So it will also give you some information that your distribution is not equaling 100%. So if you're bad at math like myself, it's going to show that for you. If I want this to apply to the entire order or just the specific lines on this order, I can click this copy to other lines. This will allow me to select which lines I want this to go to. So if I want it to go to an entire supplier, say I want this to apply to all 3 lines on my staples order, I can just click this checkbox, or I can mix it and say, I also want it to apply to my Granger order. So again, trying to make it faster so you don't have to constantly manually input these. You can just copy them as they change. You can also scroll down to the line level and you can make the updates at the line level. So where this one has 1 item, we can also go down to a line that has, we have 3 here. So you are able to change those at the line level. It's the same process. You click the edit button and the same functionality that was there at the header level, you can go ahead and add your splits and things like that. The same functionality that we showed, if you needed to have different chart fields at the line, you can copy those down as well to the different lines. So don't have to constantly manually update those. If one other thing that I wanted to point out is if I decide at some point throughout any of the process through my shopping cart all the way to me clicking the submit order, if I wanted to remove an item, I can also click on it and say, I want to remove this from this order. So you can do that. And the other feature that I forget to is you can also move it to another cart. So if you say, I want to put this on another order later, I can move it to another cart that I've created. So some functionality there. So what's going to happen when I'm ready to submit this order, you see it's in this draft status right now. What will actually happen when I click submit is it's going to go into a pending status. And I'll just quickly show you it'll go into a status like this. But what will happen when it goes into that status is this is a low purchase order, or it's a low dollar purchase order, excuse me. So it's not going to require a bunch of approvals. But the first thing that's going to do is go through this requisition validation. So first thing it's going to do, it's going to call out to CFS. It's going to check some important information. It's going to make sure that you're a valid user. It's going to make sure you belong to this business unit. The other things it's going to do is it's going to check the chart fields and make sure that they're valid chart fields. And the other thing that it will do is make sure it's valid combo edits. We have those users that want to just get that order out where they just input anything till it accepts it. This system won't allow it anymore. So you'll have to make sure they're valid. And what will happen is if it finds an invalid combo edit, it's actually going to return it to the user as a draft. And it will let them know in this history tab what the issue is. So you would see that here. So once it's good and it goes through the requisition validation, it will go for DOA approval, but that will be the only manual step in this low dollar purchase order. The only other step that it's going to be required to go through is this OFAC check. This is call out to a system to check the supplier, make sure it doesn't belong on any sanction lists. If it does, it would require some additional review. But if not, it's going to go through a second validation step. And then as long as nothing's changed, it won't be returned to the user, but it's there in case somebody changed something like an accounting string that it needs to revalidate again. The last step is this create PO step. If you noticed, I have my requisition has 3 different suppliers. I have Grainger, Graybar, Staples. So what will happen in this step is the system allows you to create one requisition with multiple suppliers to speed up the ordering process, where what will happen in this create PO is it's going to take those 3 suppliers and split them into 3 separate purchase orders, where they'll get only the items on their purchase order with your additional information of, your ship to, your bill to, all that stuff. So save you time. You can create one requisition and you could create, 3, 5, 10, 20 different suppliers on one order, whatever it is. So the goal there is to make it easier on you, less time wasted having to create 3 different purchase orders. So, anything you want to add to?
No, I think you covered it. So if I can hold for questions really quick, we're going to get through a couple of slides and then open up the floor for questions. So let me steal the share screen from you. So now what we're going to talk through are the training approach that we have and the opportunities we have for you all to get training. So the core team, we are building a robust training program for our user groups. And the goal there is to develop a sustainable training program that will provide you all with the education and resources needed to be able to function in the new world. Our goal is to help promote a smooth transition from the old way of doing things to the new way of doing things, ensuring that you have the resources you need to develop your skill sets based on the user group that you are a part of, even if you wear multiple hats within the purchasing process. We'll be able to help provide that knowledge to each role you are serving, and developing a comprehensive sustainable and accessible knowledge program to help you transition. We're also working through within the program, providing you with the toolkits and resources needed to continue your learning post go live. So leaving that behind at your campus. So I'm going to highlight a couple of key things as it relates to our training program. The first thing is the training development. We are working with 5 to 10 subject matter experts across our 9 campuses. These individuals are reviewing the training outlines and providing feedback. So they're ensuring that it's comprehensive enough to provide our user groups with appropriate training to serve in their role in the future state. They're going to review and approve those outlines. Once they do, the Rise Now instructional design team will then develop the actual training material. So CSU does really have a say in what it is that we're being trained on to make sure that it's as comprehensive as possible. The other part of our training program that I want to highlight is the Train the Trainer program. What that is we have asked our campus teams to identify at least one resource on your campus to become a Train the Trainer. Starting in the summer timeframe, what will happen is they'll go through a series of training to be able to help support us through the training process. So they'll be available during the trainings to provide business processes specific to your campus and how it relates to the technology. Additionally, long-term, there'll be a local resource on your campus for any questions and answers, questions you may have or issues you may have within the new world. This map right here shows you what the training experience will look like. So first milestone is the introduction of the training program during these roadshows. The next milestone is the actual training. So for this user group, it's a virtual training that will be required for you to be successful in the new application. And then post go live, there are two opportunities to get support for this for training. The first one is a weekly 30 minutes to an hour session with the campus trainer to facilitate any questions you all may have. The other thing is the core team will be available for about 4 to 6 weeks post go live to mitigate any issues you all encounter or answer any questions you may have. So it's a really large block of time of support that we'll provide. Once hypercare is over, we'll transition the campus to long-term support, where a central CSUBUY P2P team will be able to provide answers to ongoing questions. And again, it's really important to us to make sure that we leave resources and a toolkit behind for you all to continue your learning even after the implementation. This right here gives you more of a calendar visual of the training experience and the rollout experience. So 4 weeks before we go live are all of the go live readiness activities, which includes training reminders, communication on what's upcoming to prepare for go live. 2 weeks before go live, you all will receive your training. The idea is to keep it as close to go live as possible so that the training that you receive will be as fresh on your mind as it can be. However, we all anticipate that the true training will happen when you actually are in the application creating requisitions. So that's why we will have an intense 4 to 6 week time frame where the core team is available if there are any issues that may have come up. And then again, transitioning you all to long-term support after hypercare. So CSU Bakersfield is part of group number 2, which means that your go live is slated for the August timeframe. This is our goal to strive to. Currently, we're working through some CFS configuration activities in preparation for UAT that may impact this timeline. But as those things change, we'll keep the campus team members aware to communicate that to you all. But this is our current goal to work towards for CSU Bakersfield. And then with that, I know we have 10 minutes left. And we also have a session later, I believe at 3 o'clock, so in 30 minutes for question and answers. That's a full hour dedicated to that. But I think we're ready to open up the floor, Robert, and I'll manage chat if any questions come in there.
Any questions?
Hold on, I'm gonna bring the mic to you just so two can hear.
So just to clarify, when There was like a section when for the purchases, you can add it to a share folder. That's just for users in CSUBUY, correct?
Correct, yes. This is all for CSUBUY.
Okay, so basically, like, let's say I wanted to do like a shared forward to do purchases for my department. I can just use that, refer to that shared folder.
If the other people in your department had access to CSUBUY, then
Okay, that was pretty.
Thank you, first of all, for this presentation. My question is related. I know that you talked about being able to break percentages down. Is that if I'm collaborating with another department, will it automatically add that department representative?
correct. So if you selected, say, like a department ID that was across departments, it would require approvals for both
From that
sides.
signer? Okay, perfect. Thank you.
So will the program also allow for approval for grant-funded programs to be incorporated into the system?
That would be for 2, I would believe. Did you catch that?
Yeah, so is the question that will individuals who need to approve grants be included? Is that the question?
Correct, because
Yeah.
I believe you had indicated that certain low budget items wouldn't need certain approvals, but for grant positions, everything needs grant approval.
Yeah, and so I'm going to answer, and hopefully I think Marina's in the session as well to kind of provide campus process perspective. So our understanding is that the funding source or an element within the chart field string will identify that it is a grant. In that case, when we do, when you all go through the identifying the delegation of authority, the individuals who should be approving transactions for that particular chart field string that is related to the grant will be identified. CSUBUY will grab that information and be able to route those individuals. So technically, yes, we can do that, but we need to be able to grab that source of information within the DOA to be able to do so. Marina, I don't know if you have any perspective on the CSU Bakersfield's business process.
Yeah, we set that up so that way that would require their approval, just like we currently have on the campus. So if all goes well, then that should be a requirement, just like that $500 or $5,000 threshold that doesn't get superseded by any other requirements that we have on campus. For example, if there's a computer that's $2,500, that's under $5,000, but there are other aspects that come into play with that. So it has to meet the certain criteria for it to make that purchase where it doesn't require additional procurement review and approval and processing.
And I'll add one other brief thing that I didn't add in my part. The workflow that I was showing on that right side of the screen, what triggers that is depends on, it could be a bunch of different things. How the form you use can generate an approval. The way you answer questions can generate approval. So you see how we used like a form and it created the vehicle review, and then there's a procurement review. So depending on what you're purchasing, the dollar amounts, that's going to generate all those automatically for you. So I forgot to point that out a little earlier. So wanted to add that.
And for suppliers that are not currently in the system, or when this rolls out, will there be a process for us to communicate the need to add them?
Do you want to answer that too, or you want me to?
Yep, I got it. So yes, so if there is a supplier that you would like to do business with, there is a supplier request form that you can submit. That form does get routed to the team at Bakersfield to identify if there's any other suppliers that is of better use, maybe because they have better pricing or something like that. Once the campus gives the okay, that supplier will then be invited to join the CSU Supplier Master. They'll get an invitation. They will self-register their information, including any tax requirements and diversity classification, things like that. And then once we get it, we do the central system team will do validations on that supplier. So making sure that they are not on any sanction lists, validating their TIN information, and also something that we're working through, which is a fraud prevention measure. If all has cleared, then that supplier will be made available in CSUBUY for you all to purchase from.
With the delegation of authority, is it going to only end with an MPP signature, or because currently we can just, we push it through on our pro card, but is it going to require MPP to approval?
So that's going to be a question for Marina. Marina, I'm not sure what how you all do delegation of authority.
So as a purchase requisition, yeah, the DOA would require approval. It requires for Pro Card as well. It's just that they're doing it after the fact, right? They have to sign the Pro Card application or report that you submit. So it's built into that system, into that workflow. And the nice thing about doing it on the purchase requisition is then you don't have to do the Pro Card reconciliation. For some of you that have Pro Card reconciliation reports that are massive, hundreds of items, that's probably something you might want to consider, is putting it on the purchase requisition to save the time, especially if you have a lot of repetitive orders, because then you can save it in CSUBUY and submit that order periodic at once. Did that answer your question, Tanya?
No, is my dean going to have to approve every purchase?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so I understand that he approves it when it on the pro card, obviously, but this could present a delay out of the country and can't approve something. Correct?
All approving officials will need to access the system in order to approve. I believe there is an app, mobile app for the application as well that they could approve.
So yeah, there's an app that they can use, or there's the ability to approve through email as well. So he gets that email or she gets that email. They will be presented with the order. They'll get the crucial information, the supplier details, whatever that is, chart fields, and then they can approve it or deny it from that email, and also from the mobile app as well.
I have a question. After a requisition has been submitted and created, do we have the ability to revise the chart string after the fact without sending an email request to procurement? Can we do it within the system?
You do. So the process for that would be on the upper right, on the screen that two is sharing right now, is the process would be to withdraw it. You would withdraw that requisition and you have to resubmit it. So if it was, there's 10 steps to approval, it's the 9th one in there and you need to change it, it would have to go back through approval.
Okay, and this is after it's already became a PO, like it.
So
No,
go ahead too.
Sorry, Robert. So what Robert's sharing with so let me go back there. So what Robert shared with the withdrawal requisition, that means that a PO hasn't been created yet. So maybe during the workflow process, when it's still with somebody else and you need to change it, that's when you can withdraw the requisition and make that change to the chart field and resubmit it to go through workflow. Now, if it has already completed the requisition workflow and a PO has been created and you need to change the chart field string moving forward, then you would submit a change order to the PO to have that chart field string change. Now, with that change order submission, it will go through for approval again from a DOA financial perspective to ensure that that it's an appropriate transaction on that particular funding source.
Okay, perfect. That's understandable. And then my last question is, if, say, we need to disencumber the remaining balance on a PO or prematurely close it out, or is that something that we could submit a request through this system?
Yes, so if you have $5,000 left on a $10,000 transaction and you want to close out that transaction because you don't need it anymore, you will submit that change order request, which then will route to procurement to complete that. And once it gets sent over, it will close out the PO, which will lift the encumbrance.
Okay, thank you, guys.
Welcome. I think we have time for one more. We do have in 30 minutes at town hall, so if you have questions, you can bring those in 30 minutes and it's a full hour devoted to Q&A. So, yep, we can take the one more back there. Somebody back there, everyone?
So I have a question about the sorting, or, when you're looking for supplies, is there a way to sort by US manufactured products?
That's a good question. We do have the ability to create supplier classes a little bit different than what you're used to in CFS and PeopleSoft. But we can set up basically like a tag of the item that we can say like it's a US American made product. So we could do something like that if necessary, but there is no feature built into the system.
There's not one as of yet.
We
Okay,
can do that, yes.
okay, just a recommendation. And then my other question is, when you were searching for pins and you said there was the MSDS, just little technical note here, they are now, and this is coming from a scientist perspective, it's now safety data sheet. The M is no longer part of the initials, and that went into effect in 2015 with the global harmonizing system of standardizing the SDS sheets.
Okay, I mean, yeah, we could provide that to the Jagger, who's our software provider. We'll see if we can get that changed. That's all we have for you guys for this session. Again, 30 minutes, come on back, hold your questions. The whole hour is devoted to questions. So look forward to talking to you guys then. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Please be sure to grab a cookie on your way.